Rotary Club of South Jacksonville. For our Zoom members, we're happy you can join us. Please remember to mute yourself, submit any questions or comments via chat, or unmute yourself and let us hear from you. And if all of that fails, second star to the right and straight on until morning. Thank you to our reader, Julia Kalinsky, and the prayer and pledge today will be given by Tamara Baker.
Let's say the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for bringing us together. Please watch over us and our family as we leave today, and bless this food to the nourishment of our body. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Family time via Christy King. Christy was supposed to be with us via Zoom today. Is that
She is.
happening?
Here.
Don't see her.
You,
There she is. Ah, there she is.
okay, thank you. Thanks, Richard. Sorry, I couldn't be there in person. I caught my husband and my daughter's cold, so figured I'd stay away from everyone. So we'll start with birthdays. Michael Hodeling is celebrating his birthday on June 25th. President-elect Charlie Kofer and Greg Anderson are both celebrating their birthdays on June 27th. For wedding anniversaries, Greg Anderson and his wife Bevel are celebrating their 23rd anniversary on June 24th. Bob Massey and his wife Lori are also celebrating their 33rd anniversary on June 24th. Past President Lee Mercier and his wife Bobby are celebrating their 51st anniversary on June 25th. And Ben Samuels and his wife Margaret are celebrating their 34th wedding anniversary also on June 25th. Also for member anniversaries, past President Lee Mercier is also celebrating 42 years with Rotary on June 24th, and Bob Massey is celebrating 36 years with Rotary again on June 24th.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next up is past President Dean Scott with perhaps a history talk, perhaps something else that will edify us. Welcome, Dean.
Thank you, President Richard. It's good to see club members, visiting Rotarians, and guests here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about me personally, a little bit about me professionally, and a little bit about me and Rotary. And apologies to President Koss, we're going to have to bump you today because Richard didn't need the rest of the time. We'll have you back in a couple of weeks. We'll keep it brief. I was born in Orlando, Florida. My parents lived in Merritt Island, Florida at the time, and Orlando was kind of where the closest real doctors were. So we moved back to Merritt Island. I spent the first 4 years of my life there. We moved to Jacksonville when I was 4. So I grew up here. I consider Jacksonville very much to be my hometown. And we still have lots of family in Merritt Island and Cocoa, the Space Coast area. And we get back there when we can. We kind of call it the time warp because it doesn't seem to have changed quite as much as Jacksonville has for that period of time. But my wife is Lori, formerly Lori Clopel, now Lori Scott. We've been married 30 years as of this past April. We dated for about 8 years or so prior to that. We have 2 children. My son Cole is going to be 26 next month. My daughter Emily is going to be 24. Cole went to Clemson University and majored in finance. And he now works for a bank called Citizens Bank out of Providence, Rhode Island. And he's in process improvement. My daughter went to Florida State University and majored in communications and data analytics. And in 2020, she got a job with CSX in their strategy group, and she works with CSX today. So proud of both of them. Professionally, I'm an architect, and I work in the commercial realm. I primarily do K-12 educational facility work, but we have a full range commercial practice, so I do get involved in other things here and there. The firm I work with was founded in 1958 by Stanley Gordon and Lamar Drake. And I worked with them as summer interns in 1987 and 1988. They hired me full-time in 1989. They both eventually retired and left it with me, as they say. So in 2006, we changed the firm name to my name, which is R.D. Scott Architects. So I haven't run it in the ground in the subsequent 18 or so years. So if you're ever down on West Adams Street downtown, stop in and see me. We'll have a good time. Professionally, I also serve on the board of directors for AIA Jacksonville. AIA stands for the American Institute of Architects. It's a professional organization which guides our profession. The Jacksonville component has over 300 architect members, which makes us the 5th largest component currently of the 13 components in the state of Florida. So I've been a chapter director for 2 years. I currently serve as chapter secretary. Our own Jennifer May was president of AIA Jacksonville 4 years ago now. So hopefully we'll follow in her footsteps and do a good job in the leadership of that organization. A little bit about our profession. Architecture is generally considered to be a leading economic indicator. And of course, we're in sort of a turbulent economic period right now. I am pleased to report that the stats that the AIA National compiles on our profession remain strong. Each month we look at billings and we look at inquiries and we look at contracts. And we put it, since architects aren't very good at math, we put it in a simple chart from 0 to 100. If the number is over 50, that's good. If the number is under 50, then it's bearish. So the April numbers are in and they're both well over 50. So anecdotal evidence to support that is that the economy remains strong 9 to 12 months out for architecture and design. We've added jobs to the architecture industry as a whole. There are about just over 200,000 people working in the industry nationwide. That's about 8% below the peak of the industry, which was around 218,000 right before the Great Recession. So if you believe in these sorts of statistics, 9 to 12 months out, we're still pretty good from a design and a construction standpoint. I think it's especially strong in our area of the country for a number of different reasons. Professionally, I'm also involved in some community service. I serve on the board of the Jacksonville Arboretum at Botanical Gardens, which is out in the Arlington area. And that's a great place. And I encourage each of you to come out and visit, walk the trails, see the wonderful pond and the topography they have out there. We're currently working with them through about a $25 to $30 million master plan to develop a core botanical garden there. So very exciting times lie ahead for the Arboretum. So finally, Dean and Rotary. I became a member of this club in 1998, in July 7th, 1998. I was fortunate enough to serve as president in 2010, 2011. And since then, I've worked with past District Governor Mike Madera on his team when he was District Governor 2019, 2020. I currently serve as chair of the awards committee for District Governor Richard Cooper. I'll continue in that role with District Governor Jeff Michaelman starting July 1st. And then 2 years from now, when District Governor John Tabor takes office, I'll be his Lieutenant Governor, which means that if you have any compliments for how things are going, you talk to John. If you have any complaints, you'll talk to me. Right. Well, thank you for your time and your attention. I love Rotary. I love being a part of this club. Thank you very much.
A couple of announcements. Please remember to sign up if you have not already. For the Halen Farewell, it will be held here in the DoubleTree on Tuesday evening, June 28th. No lunch meeting that day, and it begins at 6 p.m. Spouses and guests are welcome at no charge. There is no lunch meeting on July 5th due to the holiday. The next meeting is July 12th, and we will be welcoming President Charlie Hofer. How thrilling. And speaking of thrilling, we have a few words from our area governor, B4, about things to come. Welcome, B.
Thank you. Thank you, President Richard. So I I am area governor for our district governor-elect, Jeff Michaelman, and he has asked me to talk to each club just a little bit about Rotary International's theme for next year. And I had the honor of attending, I'm getting my glasses all mixed up here, that's not good, of attending PETS with Charlie Coker, President-elect Charlie Coker this year. And in so doing, had the opportunity to meet Rotary International's president-elect, Jennifer Jones. And this is her theme for the Rotary year of 2022-23. And I'm going to read from what's on the page. I heard her tell this story, and she is just amazing and very inspiring. And I am so thrilled that she was chosen to be our president next year. So this is actually from the Rotary International's website, and it's written by, I'm not going to say this name right, but I need to give them credit, Gundala Maithaki, I guess. I'm not good at that. Anyways, imagine Rotary is the 2022-23 presidential theme that Rotary International President-elect Jennifer Jones revealed in January. She is asking Rotary members to dream big and take action. We all have dreams, but acting on them is a choice. Imagine a world that deserves our best, where we get up each day knowing that we can make a difference. The logo for the theme was designed by Ricky Salam, and I'm sure I didn't say that right either, an Australian artist and graphic designer specializing in contemporary Indigenous art, design, and communications. He also created the 2023 Rotary International Convention logo, which will be held in Melbourne, Australia, thus connecting the two by a shared visual language. Meaning of the design elements. There is, of course, a deeper meaning behind each of the elements of the design. The circle in Aboriginal culture, for instance, signifies our connection to one another. The dots around it represent people, and there are 7 because of Rotary's areas of focus. The circle and the dots together become a navigation star, our guiding light. The solid line underneath is what is referred to as a digging stick, and it is used when doing hard work. And since Rotary members are people of action, it represents a tool for getting things done. The colors. The colors green, purple, and white are not necessarily connected to Aboriginal culture. President-elect Jennifer Jones asked the new crew of governors to use 1, 2, or all 3 when dressing for official events instead of using a theme jacket. As we celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion, I want all of us to be able to express ourselves differently in what we wear, but still have connection, she explained. There are several ways to interpret the colors. Purple, for example, stands for polio eradication. Green for the environment, the newest addition to our area of focus. The white for peace, our core mission. Together, they are the colors of the women's movement, the suffrage. A subtle nod to this history, as Jones pointed out, since she will be the first female Rotary International president. And so here is her new look, her new banner for the next coming year. Thank you very much. And I failed to mention, this is Charlie's, and he actually had Jennifer sign it.
Cool.
Very cool.
I wondered why you didn't leave it. It's an artifact. And to introduce visitors and guests, Jennifer May. Please come forward, Jennifer.
think we only have one member this morning with two special guests. Tomorrow, would you like to introduce your guests?
I have two guests with me today, and these are my summer interns. This is Isabella Wright. She is currently a student at University of Virginia. University of Virginia, she is majoring in systems engineering, and she'll be with me this summer. And we practice civil and structural, but she's getting a little different experience. She's also a local Jacksonville native. She was born and raised right here in Jacksonville and St. Nicholas.
Wahoo wah.
Next guest is Tanner Murray. He is a senior in high school at Charlton County High School, my alumni and folks in Georgia. And Tanner is interested in majoring in engineering at the University of Georgia. And he will be with me this summer as well.
All right, Mike's not here. I will confess, I don't know all the words. So everyone's gonna help out. We here in Rotary welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. Our hand of fellowship is yours, sunshine or rain. We hear you say, come again. You didn't expect a serenade, did you?
I think we found the right pitch for that song. For our program introduction today, I give you Leslie Wright.
Thank you. Today we have two very special guest speakers. The first is Tim Cost, president of Jacksonville University. Many of you know President Cost as a fellow Rotarian, a community leader, and a philanthropist. He's also a 1981 alumnus of the university and has served as our president for almost 10 years. Prior to that, he was the executive president of PepsiCo and has over 30 years of senior executive experience at many of the world's top public companies, including Bristol Myers Squibb, Kodak, Aramark, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson. We'll also hear from Mr. D. Brown, the executive director of the university and athletic relations at JU. President Cost will provide additional background on Mr. Brown before Mr. Brown talks. President Cost has committed his time at JU to substantial improvements in student success, faculty excellence, campus upgrades, and community connections. And we look forward to hearing from you today. Please join me in welcoming Tim Cost and Dee Brown.
Good to be here with everybody. I've been in this job about 10 years, which means I think this is my fourth time with you all. And I do think, as some of you said when I came in, the world has heard enough from me. Was that you, President? So I'll just give you a couple minutes on what's going on at the university. I welcome the young lady from UVA, all hail, and the young man who's on his way to the University of Georgia until the next hour goes by. Then I think we got him. We'll see how it goes. Great school, UGA as well. So things at Jacksonville University going very well. I'm going to do about 5 minutes. I really want you to hear from my friend Dee Brown, because I don't think most of you have had the chance to listen to a modern leader with his background. I think you get a kick out of him and learn a lot. So a couple of years ago, we decided we're going to go down the path heavily, as you all recall, when I came here 4 years ago, talked about how we were going to make a big push into healthcare and business. So where we went from 3 colleges, 5 schools and 2 institutes, we now have 5 colleges, 11 schools and 4 institutes. The university is still a little over 4,000 students. It's about 2/3 undergrad, 1/3 grad. The majority of our students, undergrad, come from outside the state of Florida. That's the strategy. For $42,000 a year, that is an extremely inexpensive school compared to a lot of the schools when you get above the Mason-Dixon line. In the state of Florida, it sometimes causes people to clutch their pearls. The average discount rate for students who go to our university is about 60%. So students who come to our university from around the country, incoming class comes in from 50 states and 51 foreign countries. And our largest majors are in the healthcare field and in the business school. The one thing I know people have asked me about everywhere we've gone recently here, dating back to February, is the creation of a law school. This is the largest state in the country, largest city, excuse me, in the country without a law school. We have launched our law school. We've been working on it for about 4 years. It's going to open the second week of August. We have chosen a dean. We haven't announced that person yet. We will shortly. We have hired all the faculty. We've hired all the staff. We have the facility. We have the students. All we need to do is let you know who the dean is. That individual has a background, undergrad, Princeton, a Rhodes Scholar from Cambridge, a law degree from Yale, and has been the dean of the top 50 law schools. This is a person with quite a lot of international experience. We'll get him back in town soon. We'll make that announcement. So we're excited about that. That's going to be down at ViStar. We're going to be there for 2 years, and then we're going to go from there. We're also extremely interested in advancing. You also have the largest city in America without a medical school here. And we teach 11 different majors in medicine inside of the Brooks Rehabilitation College of Healthcare Science on our campus. We'll be looking to advance that even further. So stay tuned. I have no announcements for you on that one today, but we are extremely interested in the next step in medicine this year. In addition to that, we work with folks like President Winslow here and others on what the world would call tech or fintech. There's quite a strong movement afoot, whether you are with CXX or whether you're with Black Knight or any of the investment firms in town and the insurance companies in town and the law firms in town. The collision that's going on now, gently confluence between what's going on in technology and what's going on in business. So the world of financial technology, which makes a lot of sense if you're FIS, actually ripples through everyone, including Florida Blue, where I serve on the board. So you'll hear a lot more from us, whether it's Kaiser, FSCJ, JU, UNF, Flagler, all of us working together to create a habitat, an environment here in Jacksonville that's welcoming for fintech. Let me shift gears now. Whether you're a fan of sports or not, I want you to hear a gentleman here for 10 or 15 minutes talk about leadership. So back in the mid 80s, Dee Brown was a superstar basketball player at Bulls, recruited to come to his hometown university, Jacksonville University, where he became everything. You know, we've had the great artist Gilmore, who still works for us. He's a special assistant to the president. I bring you his greetings. When people say, what exactly do you have artists do? The question is, he's Artist Gilmore. So I don't have him running spreadsheets back there. He's Artist Gilmore. The two greatest basketball players in the history of our university, and we've had 27 players drafted into the NBA, were Artist Gilmore and Dee Brown. He went on to become everything at Jacksonville University. He was drafted in the first round by the Boston Celtics. You may remember those teams in the late 80s and early 90s with names like Bird and Parrish and McHale and Dee Brown. In fact, Dee was brought back up there. He didn't tell me this, but I got this from another person. Dee was recently invited to come back to Boston Garden onto the floor, and he was recognized for the decade of the 90s. He led the Boston Celtics for the decade of the 90s in every single offensive category, and they had a night in his honor. And because the kind of guy Dee is, you've never mentioned that to me, but I have friends in Boston. The reason, with all that behind him, including the most famous dunk in the dunk contest, which he won in 1991, you may remember, he pumped up his Reebok sneakers and then he covered his head and he dunked, and he's known for that today. All of that, all of the all-rookie team, first round draft pick, records from the 1990s with a great team, the Celtics, played with 4 teams in the NBA, played in the NBA for 12 years, scored almost 7,000 points in the NBA, obviously a super athlete. I thought you might like to hear from him today because he's an executive. He went on from that point in his early 30s to this point in his early 50s, inside the professional sports world, in the women's game, in the men's game, as a coach, as a general manager, as a head of player development, working with, you've got to think about who he's working with, young people, many of whom who didn't get their college degree, who came out with extraordinary gifts and were sometimes paid a lot of money and were sometimes going into what was called the development league, the D League, now known as the G League. That idea that D. Brown would dedicate 20+ years of his life across 4 more professional organizations, including being an assistant coach at people like the Pistons and the Spurs, and then going on to be general manager of his own team. And then at our invitation to set all that aside and to move from Atlanta and to come to Jacksonville and to come back to his alma mater, we've asked him to be executive director of what we call University and Athletic Relations. That means D gets to do whatever the hell he wants. That means we ask D to work a lot with coaches and assistant coaches and young leaders and players and student athletes and non-athletes, and God bless them, with faculty, which is amazing. God bless you. And I thought you might like to hear an outsider's view. D's been in higher ed now about a year, about what it's like for new young people coming into the field of higher education. And we're glad to take any questions you'd like. Please join me in welcoming the great D. Brown.
So as good as Tim described me as a player. I'm still a little bit trying to get over the Celtics Game 6 loss against Golden State. So, tough series for my Celtics, but congratulations to the Warriors. First of all, thank you for having me today. Jacksonville's home. This is where I was born and raised. I went to high school here. Middle school, I was born on Jacksonville Beach. I lived off Mayport Road. Grew up off Emerson Street by the old, I'm sure you remember the old Scotties. Remember the Scotties off a long time ago? Not even right behind Scotties. My mom was a banker. My dad was a commercial printer, one of the first privately owned print companies called the Print Shop, before all these Sir Speedies and FedEx Kinkos came in. My dad did a lot of business with a lot of companies in Jacksonville, and it was my grandfather's company. So I saw what hard work and being an entrepreneur was, and having your own business. But the biggest thing for me is when 4 years ago, when President Cos and my heart, Dr. Kinney, approached me before she passed away at his house. I was doing an event at President Cos' house, and President Kinney and President Cos didn't tell me. I was doing a speaking engagement there for some of our sports teams, and he didn't tell me Dr. Kinney was coming. And if anybody knows Dr. Kinney, how special she is, how big of influence she is, not just on the university, but also the city of Jacksonville, for all the things she's done all across the levels, she approached me, and she really made me cry, because she said, "D, we need you back in Jacksonville. Your leadership, your experience, the things you've done outside of the city, we'd love you to come back to Jacksonville. We'd love to have you back at Jacksonville University to really mentor our young coaches, our student athletes, our administrators, but also just our student body, and like President Cos said, connection back with the faculty, professors, and they get everybody to understand on the same page, especially not what would happen after pandemic. This was 4 years ago. Pandemic happens, and then I made a decision to leave. I was at that time the vice president and general manager of LA Clippers. And I was home for the first time in 28 years. I was home because when I was working in the NBA, I was on the road 25 days out of the month for like 4 years straight. Never got a chance to see my kids play, grow up as much as I wanted to. And I've been married to my wife, beautiful wife, for 30 years. And when the pandemic happened, it made me pause and start reevaluating my importance to what I could give back to not just professional athletes, but to athletes in general and just young adults. And I referred back to the conversation I had with Dr. Kinney and President Cos at his house. I said, you know what, it's nothing like going back home. It's nothing like going back home and giving back all the experiences of all the great coaches, the great executives I've been around, the great leaders, the great players, and give that back to my alma mater, Jackson University. And, on a selfish note, be back. My mom and dad still lives here. I still have siblings here. And it was a no-brainer. My son, who's my youngest, 16, he goes to Bulls now. A lot better basketball player than I was in high school. See, I got cut as a sophomore in high school. He started as a sophomore in high school. So, he's definitely grown and to be a better player than me. But the reason why I came back to Jackson University is what President Cost said. My experiences and leadership skills of kind of trying to connect people. When the pandemic happened, I think we lost connection with a lot of people. Everything was virtual, we talked about earlier. Virtual classes, this online classes, can I talk to you FaceTime, can I text? So when our student athletes came back on campus, they lost that feel of how to do that. They lost the caring part. They lost the connection part. They lost the collaboration part, and they lost the communication part. And part of my responsibility coming back was to teach them or kind of give them the tools and resources to get back to doing that again. I'm a face person. I like to talk to people in their face. I like to handshake. I like, how you doing? I like to see body language. I like to see heads nodding. You can't get that same feeling when you're talking over a phone or a computer. So we had to restart that again. Not with just our coaches doing the same thing, because they have to change their recruiting strategies a little different of how to do that. And what I want to do was build on the things that President Cost has done over the last 10 years at Jackson University, just build on the core values that he's had on campus. And the core values to me that he's instilled to the university, to our athletics department, is something I just kind of use as a foundation. And I'll just kind of go over a little bit that how we build on that and just how we now adapt to the new student, the new Gen Z student that now everything's at their fingertips. And they really want to be loved, because on the athletic side, we have coaches, we have trainers, we have strength coaches that make all our athletes physically stronger, faster, better at their sport. But there are 6 other pieces that part of my job, it's all I care about. It's growing the students and student athletes emotionally, mentally, spiritually, professionally, relationally, and financially. Those 6 things we got lost in translation during the pandemic, because one thing that got taken away from everybody was the physical part of doing things. You couldn't go out and run anymore. You couldn't go to the gym anymore. So all these young kids had a gap in their lives and didn't understand how to be better at those 6 things. And my primary job is to care about them life after sports. The same way that I had people care about me early in my career, life after basketball, when I stopped playing basketball, because as we know, Father Time's undefeated, and you're going to take that jersey off and you're going to take that uniform off. What do you do after that? My job is to make sure they're prepared, that they have the best JU student or student athlete experience available. And that's due to the core values that President Cost has instilled already. And I'll go over real quick. First one that I talk about a lot with our student athletes, our coaches, our administrators, is you got to be hungry. And hungry means you got to have fun. Like you got to go and have a passion and a drive for something, whatever it is. And a lot of student athletes, they kind of lost their passion a little bit once the pandemic started. Now I got to get back to real life, and I got to talk to people. I got to go to class. I've got to fend for myself when I'm not home anymore. And you got to have that hunger, but you have to be compassionate at the same time when you're hungry. Like we try to tell our student athletes, when you're hungry, you do it, we call it a right worker. You do the right things for the right reasons. If you don't do right things for the right reasons, then you're not in it for the right reasons. And once they understand that and put that in perspective, they're fine. The next thing we tell them, you have to be positive. You have to be joyful. All right. Listen, we're in a difficult time right now. Financially, there's a lot of things going on in the world. We're talking, you've got blue versus red, Democrat versus Republican. Again, we all get it. We all have our opinions and things like that. But it has to be some positivity and some joy in what we do with each other. I'm in a human business. I'm not in the sports business. See, people say student athlete. Well, we put another word in front of it. We say human student athlete. We got to take care of the human first. The human element is missing right now. The humanity is missing right now. We've got to start that with our young adults to understand how important that is about having a human conversation without not being offended. It sounds easy, but it is that easy because there's a lot of differences going on right now. I understand that, but we have to be positive because it's a great country we live in, and there's a lot of things going on around the world. In our campus, we're very inclusive, we're very diverse, and we believe in that. And because of our great leadership with President Cost, it filters down to everybody who steps on foot at Jackson University. Next thing we have to do, we have to be honest with each other. You know, I tell our student athletes and our students and our coaches, know what you don't know and admit to it. If you don't know it, just say I don't know and go find the answer. Don't assume, don't guess, don't speculate. If you don't know, go find the answer. I get a lot of questions. Hey, Mr. D, Coach D, I got a question for you. If I don't have an answer for you, say, you know what, young lady or young man, I don't know the answer to that. Guess what? I will find it for you. I will give you the right resource or tools to find that answer. So again, we've got to be honest with ourselves and things that we don't know and not say, well, we all have opinions. But we want to make sure our young leaders coming up can be honest with themselves every day they walk through. And the last thing is you have to be humble. Like humility right now is something that we don't really think about as much as we could. Being present, being mindful, being respectful. I think that's self-awareness is the biggest thing to me. You have to be self-aware of who you are, and what you can do. So when we're dealing with all our student athletes and those core values, again, this is across the university. This is not an athletics thing. This is not just a student body thing. These core values that filter around all of campus. And then we try to develop leaders within those core values. If your core values is the foundation of what you do every day, you pretty much is going to, your university, your student body is going to grow and be very successful. And as we're doing that, we're building leaders from within. But what do we do to build leaders? Like, what are the little things that we try to do with our leaders? And what can they do to be better leaders? Well, to me, and I'll follow lead from one of the best leaders, not just in the state, but in the country, President Cost, and also our athletic director, Alex Ricker Gilbert. Leaders ought to minimize conflicts. Again, go back to the core values. They minimize conflicts. They manage relationships. They maximize communication. And communication, the biggest skill of communication is listening. See, I can have an answer for you if you ask me a question, but if I don't listen to your question, I'm not answering your question. And people think communication is always one-sided. I'm not going to talk to you and tell you what I think. No, communication is listening to what you got to say. And then I might have to reevaluate my opinion now, because now I'm feeling what you're saying. Again, I have to listen to what you say. You have to, and to me, one of the biggest things that we talk about a lot now in this era and this time we're in, we have to embrace mental health. It's very important. We try to not see the word mental health is it's so stigmatized right now. Somebody said mental health, oh, something's wrong with you. Okay, well, what we've done in athletics department, we call it mental fitness. The same way physical fitness gets stronger, we do mental fitness get stronger in your brain. So we have tools and resources. My job is to find all the tools and resources to make sure mentally and emotionally that you're fit. That anxiety, grief, stress, pressures, whatever it is, we're helping you develop to be able to deal with those things. See what happens, we don't want to be, reactive. We want to be proactive. We want to address the problem before it becomes an issue. And I think a lot of things we do nowadays, we wait till the last moment or wait till something happens bad. Oh, we got to do something. We got to change. Well, let's be a little more proactive on making those decisions. The other thing is part of those things when you're building your core values and that part of leadership. I think that all improves performance. Performance with your job, improvements in your relationship, improvement with your family, improvements with whatever you do. Once you have what we call your DNA, whatever your DNA is, that those core values have to be a part of that. Last thing I'll leave you with is a couple things. I always try to mention this a little bit about the term rocking the boat. And everybody's heard the term. And I tell our students and our coaches and even our senior administrators, say, hey, there's nothing wrong with rocking the boat. And they go, well, what does that mean? Like, well, sometimes we take the terms rocking the boat as, we got to make changes. We got to rock the boat. Well, usually the person who's starting a problem is the person you don't want to rely on to make a solution. So people think rocking the boat means people in a boat and somebody outside of the boat rocking it and going, hey, we got to shake it up a little bit. We got to make some changes. Well, rocking the boat really should be all the people in the boat rocking it together And now we got to figure out a solution how to stop it and stay it still. Because when you rock the boat on the outside and you fall in, you're part of the problem. I don't want to be in the water with you. I want to be in the boat with everybody else pulling the same way. So when you think rocking the boat with your groups and your whoever you're working with, think of rocking the boat as a leader, as I'm in the boat, and yes, we're rocking together, but who's going to be the person to be part of the solution to stop this boat from rocking? Not the person on the outside shaking it up to be disruptive. And to be able to do that, you've got to have strong core values, and you've got to value people. You got to value humans. If you don't do that and value humans, it doesn't matter what your core values are, because everything's dismissive. Everything's dismissive. So as you're having these conversations, you want to have these conversations with employees, with family members, even when people are talking to you about improving. I talk to President Cost. We have a meeting at least once a month, and he gives me advice. And he says, hey, have you thought about talking to our faculty in this way? Have you thought about approaching them this way? And I think of a couple of things I can do. I can either get better or get bitter. Okay, it ain't that hard. Either get better or get bitter. See, people that get better, listen to the message. People that get bitter, it's not about humans. It's all about yourself. It's ego. It's an agenda. And every time I talk to them, I want to get better. I don't get better. And I think that's how we need to really deal with each other now. On the human aspect, we got to get better with each other and not get bitter when something that you don't like makes you uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable. It's a learning process for everybody, no matter 10 years of experience, 50 years of experience, 10 days. You with that. Get better, people, don't get better. So if anybody has any questions about anything, about what we're doing on campus, athletics department, we got some great sports going on. JU, our basketball team, won 20 games last year for the first time in so many years. We're undefeated at home. Women's lacrosse got to the Sweet 16. Men's lacrosse was top 10 in the country all year long. We're doing some great things. New buildings are being built out there. We just built a new performance basketball center out there that never had when I was there. Probably could have been a better player. We had that, but it's unbelievable. And again, it all stems from the top down. It starts with President Cost and his leadership and the things he's done and resources and tools he gives us to be great at what we do. Because I ask for a lot of things from President Cost, and he doesn't get bitter, he gets better. And he says, you know what? If it's for our student athletes, for our student body, for us to be a great university and represent Jacksonville University in this city, in the state of Florida, around the country the best way, we'll do it. And so we're excited what's going on in Jacksonville University. I'm glad to be back home. I'm glad to be back on campus. It's nothing like being able to come back home and be welcomed with open arms from everybody across the city, see old friends, see old classmates. So again, thank you for having me today. Really appreciate the time and be able to speak with you. So if anybody's got any questions, please ask. Yes.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate it very much. President Cost, appreciate you being here. So my question is, when is the ice going out?
What is the ice going in?
I'm sure he has no comment.
All right, for lunch.
Yes.
I think the Jaguars may have started on their new offices and performance building, whatever they're calling it these days. Are there any services that are going to be offered within that facility that could be of benefit to JU and your athletes?
I think we might reach out to them. Again, we're trying to do a lot of things on campus. We're trying to obviously build our rehab, cryo chamber, all the things from a professional level that you would think that every great or next level, athlete would need. Coming from professional ranks, I've seen it all, from every elite, running machine to equipment. I think we're doing a pretty good job on campus. I think we've done a pretty good job of growing that space. We've got a brand new field house. I think the one thing that our coaches, all our coaches from all our sports, is that they're not afraid to ask for next level things, and have it on campus. But any collaboration, and I just talked about earlier about collaboration with our coaches and our staff, you know, we do some things with the Jacksonville Shrimp, Jumbo Shrimp, you know, I'm sure, you know, if there's some type of collaboration we can do with the Jaguars as far as, you know, enhancing things that we do with our student athletes, we're always welcome to it. Yes.
I know that the vast majority of young people that enter collegiate athletics don't make it to a professional level. Probably a lot more hope to do that, but they are able to do that. How does the university deal with that segment of your student body who are participating in athletics for a life in the world outside of athletics?
That's a great question. Again, that's one of the main reasons why I came back, because that segment you talk about is probably 99.9% of all athletes around the country, not just at Jacksonville University. The one thing we do, again, it's the preparation. And we started when they were freshmen. You know, we have a 4-year plan for all of our student athletes. And it's a preparation. Let's not start writing your resume book and start doing that and doing internships when you think you don't have a chance to be a professional athlete. Again, I mean, just to be blunt and honest, I was the last NBA player to be drafted or come out of Jackson University. That was 32 years ago. 32 years ago. You know, we've had baseball players, Austin Hayes, but there's not a lot of, you know, pro athletes coming out of Jacksonville. Not that they're not good enough, but it's just a big pool of people. So what we're trying to do is let them understand from day one. Like, my position is, again, I don't care if you score 1,000 points or 1 point. I don't care if you hit the ball 400 feet, 400 yards, whatever, 400 feet or 2 feet. My job is to prepare you for life, prepare you for now. Like, I remember, and this is a funny story, and not to get off what you asked me. I remember dealing with some NBA players when they first came out of college. All right. And we're trying to teach them financial literacy. Like, okay, you know, what goes on, your paycheck, you know, taxes. So one kid asked me, he goes, who is FICA? I had no clue. He goes, who's this FICA person taking this money out of my check? I go, wait a minute. You don't know, nobody taught you, nobody explained what federal income tax, like, they had no clue. Like, no clue. So the education has to start at an earlier level. Has to start in college. Main reason why I came back to start that type of education. The education does not just limit it to athletes. It's for everybody who is a student at Jackson University can get that information. I work closely with DCOM, or Davis College of Business. I'll be working with our health sciences group. I'll be working with different other colleges as on an advisory role, to let them understand that there's other things out there that even the athletes go through, that the person who's not your athlete, who's going to make $1 gazillion or have an opportunity to do that, do have to deal with on an everyday basis. So there's programs I work in conjunction with our student athlete services on the education piece, but the programming is just putting a plan together over a 4-year course that gradually understands what taxes mean, what your credit score means. Okay, that's a financial part. Hey, you're dealing with this on a relational part, you know, okay, how do you have a conversation with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whoever it is? How do you accept criticism? You know, the next, like, so there's so many other pieces that we have to deal with our students and student athletes. And I'm a truth teller, and I try to say, hey, you're not that good right now. So either work on your game or get your passport and go overseas. Like, get ready for something. So, but we're very, very encouraging with all our student athletes and making sure they're prepared for, because we want them to come back to Jackson University and say, you know what, they cared about me. They really cared about me. Yes.
You said finance is one of the prongs.
Yes.
Do you guys have a program, or is it just kind of in the culture?
We have a specific program. We work with one of our banks, Regions Banks, and we have a whole curriculum. And we meet with all our freshmen at the beginning of the season. We have a huge basic seminar, and we have resources where they can go plug in, and log in, and get different seminars. If it's, like I said, if it's if it's understanding taxes, understanding how to write a check. Nobody does that anymore, but you know, how to manage your checkbook, what your financial aid looks like and where does it go, and how to manage that, and how to manage your payroll. So we do a lot of different things with regional banks. We have, you know, probably 20 different seminars they can log into, and it starts your freshman year. Again, it changes as you get older, because we'll get some grad transfers that probably down the road are probably a little more advanced or experienced. So there's different other, seminars they can go to. So it's a freshman through all the way to you graduate seminar program that we put together. Not just, hey, this is how you use your ATM card. No, it's a little more detailed than that. Yeah.
I know student loans can be.
That's,
very
yes.
Free money.
Yeah, exactly. So again,
That's how it's advertised.
right, and it's just education part, understanding where the money goes, and okay, I gotta pay that back eventually. Yeah, and how to manage that. Yes,
The values that you were speaking about,
yes,
do you
sir.
find that there's a difference in the different people coming in from different countries around the world that they you as far as whether they already have these values instilled in them or not? Where do the students from the United States stand in perspective to the students from other parts of the world?
That's a great question. I think the common denominator that they're 17, 18, and 19 years old. I think that's a common factor. No matter what country they come from, they're 17, 18, 19 years old, leaving home for the first time on their own and trying to figure out life and trying to figure out how to, the biggest challenge is time management. I got all this free time, but I don't have all this free time. Student athlete, 6 a.m. workout, 8 o'clock class, 10 o'clock class, I got to eat lunch, I got 1 o'clock workout, I got afternoon class, I got study hall, I got to go support other teams, have a social life. I'm in bed by 11, I got to do it again at 6. That's just a student athlete. So just students on an everyday basis, they have so much time sometimes, it's time management. So when you put those values I talked about, those 4 core values in, it's just all about, it's really about pulling it out of a lot of the people. They already have them. Like nobody, we're not saying people come from broken families and they're like, oh, I'm so glad to be away from my mom and dad. Some of them are, but most of them are like, listen, I have all this time on my hands. How do I manage it? How do I participate in a club or, support a sporting event or know how to have a communicate or have a conversation with my professor when I'm struggling? Those are things we're trying to teach our young adults at JU. So the common factor is their age and their immaturity of understanding how to manage their time and, how to deal with, anxieties and stresses of, I got a paper I got to turn in and I don't know what I'm doing and I need some help. That's just young people being young people. One more, yes.
How, just piggybacking off that, how does social media and access to information change things from when you were a student athlete and maybe, today?
Yeah, it's
positive, negative.
It's a combination of both.
Yeah.
I majored in math and computer science, so I was kind of like the first person to have like a laptop in the NBA. It was like a 12-pound MacBook. It was like a suitcase. And I remember Robert Parrish and everybody like, why are you carrying this laptop around? They didn't know what it was. It was monochrome. It was a 5-inch. It was like the big diskettes. Oh gosh, I was programming C and Pascal, which was give me flashbacks. But now social media, I've got 4 kids, and my oldest is 28, my youngest 16, and it's challenging. It's challenging because everything is real time. They want information, they want it now. And it's the competition part of the social media part, the haves and the have-nots. Here's the thing we're dealing with. And I don't know if everybody's heard about it, NIL. Okay, I'll talk real quickly about NIL. NIL, name, image, and likeness. Now the student athletes can get paid. Well, a lot of the money they get paid through is social media stuff, doing posts, wearing a t-shirt, buying a smoothie. Hey, I got a smoothie from so-and-so. Hey, I'll give you a free smoothie for the rest of the month. So social media is a good thing for student athletes if they know how to utilize it for their quote unquote brands. A bad thing when they use it to justify who they are and what they're doing and compare it to other people. So yeah, we use social media to enhance our athletes and show everybody what they're doing, not just sports related. Same thing we do with all our different businesses and schools and universities on campus and colleges. But we don't want to make that's your only communication piece, where, you know, if I'm not have half a million followers on social media, I'm unsuccessful. We're trying to negate that type of social media presence. What we're trying to do is elevate their brand and their confidence in saying, hey, Jackson University supports you. Hey, you know, there's opportunity for you to, you know, build your brand, but you have to learn what that means. You know, how to read a contract, taxes, you know, what a 1099 means, what a W-9 like. They don't know. They think it's free money. It's not free money. Uncle Sam's will get his money, you know, and if you don't, he will get you. So that's things we got to teach our young adults. So again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You convey our appreciation for being with us today and for building excellent leaders.
Oh, thank you.
This certificate, which will remind you that we are making a donation to the Rotary Foundation for the eradication of polio in your honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Here are the reminders. Next week, no lunch meeting. Hail and farewell here at 6 p.m. If you haven't already made your reservation, please do so. No meeting on July 5th because of the holiday. July 12th, the new year begins with new President Charlie Cofer. As we end our meeting, we call to mind our membership motto, each one bring one. And please join me in our club motto, service above self, one Robin's most to serve best.